Hello! Another week rolls to an end, and we're back in our favorite place, sharing a bit of tipple with friends, trying to solve the world's problems, and talking about things that we have no business talking about. We've lost Tinashe.
Yes, we have, and I can't say I miss him very much.
I think the replacements are much better.
The scenery on the set has improved significantly, minus Tinashe.
Tinashe, wherever you are, stay there. So, this evening we're joined by our old friend Levi, who many of you will remember.
Hello again.
As usual, she comes bearing gifts, but she'll tell us more about it just now.
Yes.
And we've got a new friend, the dimpled lawyer.
Hi.
Welcome, Muzi.
Emulating Tinashe and being boring with tea.
There's nothing boring about tea, actually.
Well,
And I'm not emulating Tinashe.
Well, maybe you can tell
But
us
it's,
what you drink.
someone's got to drink tea when Tinashe's not around, so I'll be that someone. So I'm just
Rooibos
having rooibos tea, yes. Nothing fancy, just a bit of herbal tea for the system.
Okay. It's a lovely dress you're wearing.
Thank you. I like blue.
I like the style.
What color is that?
No, I like the style of it.
Oh,
What color is this? It's white.
No, so you don't know. But thank
Okay.
you.
What did you bring us?
So we are having a white wine today. It doesn't look quite white in the
Looks
glass.
quite golden.
It does look golden. And
Some of the viewers might think we're cheating and having beer.
actually, no, we're not cheating. So what happens is with wine, it's a vintage 2016. So we're looking at about, 2016 to 2022. That's about 6 years. So that's a lot in terms of years. And remember, with white wines, the color spectrum, the younger they are, the lighter they are. So it's watery white right through to straw, golden, even going right through to amber. And the darker it is, the more age is on the wine. So clearly, without looking at the vintage, this definitely tells us we've got an oldie in the glass.
And wine gets better with age, apparently.
Not all the time. Yes, George is right. It's not all the time, but that is, we'll go down a rabbit hole with that. So not today. But we are trying to put this to the test because it's 6 years old. The winemaker has said it's age-worthy 5 to about 7 years. So we are hovering to the maybe not so good side. And this is why I thought, let's give it a try and see how that goes.
It's looking very mellow in the glass.
What do you mean it's looking very mellow?
When you look at something younger, you get some hints of youth. You always have a few bubbles.
Well, youth will give you a bit of bubble, especially very, very young wines. Just that freshness can actually give you that little slight fizz, very slight. Nothing to do with sparkling, but just a slight fizz to show you that it's really young and fresh. So we're not going to get that in this, but sometimes the palate does say it all. So why
wait. You haven't told us what it is.
Oh, yes. So this grape variety, very special, very well known in Germany, and it's called Gewurztramina. You will get it in France as well, but this is a South African wine, so you do have small plantings in South Africa of Gewurztramina. Yes.
I'm not even going to try.
Try pronouncing it. No.
Try to say that. Gewurztramina.
Yes,
what apparently
Gewurztramina.
translates to the beautiful lady.
Okay, so there's this beautiful story about this range of wines. Niederberg, again, we all know Niederberg, the sound of home when it comes to wines, but this is their gourmet range. Yes, it's part of their gourmet range. They do have quite a number in it, and this, I must say, is time for us to pick our glasses up and...
After that hype, it better taste good.
So even on the nose, this is the wine well known for that lychee nose, like big and bold. You get lychee straight out of the glass, especially when it's a lot younger. But you're still getting the lychee there. Getting lots of hints of dried fruit, like honeyed.
Yes. Can we drink it now?
Yes, we can drink it.
You must have been quite thirsty, eh?
Right? It tastes like...
Sweet. Hints of peach.
So what a surprise, actually. It's still actually quite fresh on the palate. This is what I'm getting. The acid is still really good. So it has aged really well and it tastes really beautiful for me on the palate. But it's your palate that speaks, Rufaro, or yours, George.
What is your palate saying?
I think it's an easy drinking wine. I could get used to it. It's good.
It's got a bit of residual sugar, like you said,
Yes,
slightly
very
sweet, maybe about 12 grams.
Leaning towards the dessert one.
No, it's nowhere near that because a dessert wine will give you 50 plus.
See, because me
to
and George
3
are
digits.
banting and we don't do sugar at all, we're very sensitive to sweetness.
right.
So
So you're
it
probably
would come
tasting it
across,
much
yeah,
more.
Yeah, so
Okay, fair
no
enough.
wonder why he would make
Pick
that.
it up like that, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It is on the sweet side of the dry spectrum.
I couldn't have this with meat.
Well, this is really good with Asian food, Moroccan, all your Thai. Worth trying out.
So is this locally available, or it's just what we have to be buddies with you?
So
to
even
get
if you
access to
became a
bottle?
buddy with me, I would not be able to get this because rumor has it that they've actually discontinued it. I'm not sure if that's true, but this is a 2016 vintage, so I don't know what happened, the other years that
Nah.
followed up to 2022. Who knows?
Yeah, so we're honored and privileged. Thank you.
That we are.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That was quite a schooling.
Yes,
Speaking of
it's much
schoolings-
more interesting than the tea. But anyway,
Speaking of schoolings, so one of the reasons we have Muzi on the show is she wrote in after our season finale.
Yeah.
And she has some very strong opinions about Dr. Kuramatunu's opinions on hair.
No, I just feel like his soul is sort of, he may be right, but he's also misguided. Because, sometimes we just wear these wigs and weaves just to cover up a bad hair day. It's actually not that deep. We're not trying to look like we're white or we're trying to look like,
So how is he right?
because it's his opinion, we'll let him have that. But he needs to dig a bit deeper. He's just too one-sided.
I feel
I'd actually love to have this conversation with him. Like when you invite him over again, which I'm sure you guys will.
wow.
I want to be here.
Doc, the gauntlet's been laid. But you're trying to say something.
So I was going to say, is it really an opinion from him? Because I feel like he is saying, women should, I want to say, and I've shouldn't. Okay, yeah, exactly. He's, like saying it outright. Don't. So I think he's gone beyond that line of opinion because he pushes that
well,
narrative.
he's ardent. He's passionate. He feels quite strongly. But I don't think that he's lobbying for there to be legislation to ban.
Oh, I'm
these
sure if he
things.
was given the platform.
You can't say.
This is interesting though, lady. Because
If he was given the platform, I'm sure he would.
Looking at your hair,
Yes.
I mean, he'd love you.
He loves my hair. He loves my hair.
So how is it that you have such strong contrary emotions?
Because I just feel everybody has a right to be who they want to be, do whatever they want with their hair.
My
That's
body,
what
my
I-
choice. My hair, my choice.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's
you can't
how I
say
feel.
there's nothing intelligent or whatever about you having a wig and walking around because it's some dead person's hair, so you've got all this thing going on. No.
But don't you think?
Some-
Don't you
do
think
you
the
know-
world is a better place with such a diversity of opinion? Wouldn't it be? Wouldn't
Opinion is good.
be so much poorer
But
if we all were on the same page and if we all had the same view. And sometimes people tend to not say these things because they feel they're controversial or they might come out as being politically correct, politically incorrect rather. So, in as much as I don't hold his view, I respect that he is comfortable.
I happen to share his view.
Well, I respect
I
that
do.
I respect that he's comfortable and confident enough to come out and speak his mind
Oh,
and,
yes.
and say what
Oh,
he
yes,
thinks.
he is.
And this is right, and I think it's your right as well if you have an opposing view or a different view to
know
say
what I
no,
think?
that's wrong. And I think our society is rich and better if we have open and honest conversations.
it would have been a better
True, which is what we're having
conversation
right
if
now.
next time he talks about it, because he will. You need to have someone to balance it out, because I feel like he is so much in his lane of it's wrong that he won't listen to reasons on the other side. So next time he talks about it, there should be a balance. I am going to be that balance when he comes back.
Sounds
Okay,
like
so
two
the
people on
gauntlet
a
has been
date.
laid.
Can't wait, dog.
We'll try and put together a date, and I think we'll have a very interesting
Please
conversation.
invite me to be a spectator.
We will probably need a bigger person to be the moderator because, you know,
I won't rise to the task. But yeah, we should have you. He's a lover of
He
wine.
will. Yes, I know him. I know him personally. So he will love me and kiss me because of my hair.
You've got a husband.
And we.
And you're
okay.
saying this. You've got a husband and
No, I'm
in-laws.
just trying to say that he will like, you know, because of my hair. He loves wine. We've met, you know, quite often, that kind of thing. But I still don't share his view on that.
So you know what's interesting? Like underneath this, I have my African hair. I've got my natural hair in there, not texturized.
Can we see it?
No, not right now. And I love everything about natural hair, but sometimes I'm gonna just put this on because I want to go and get my hair done, or whatever, and I don't have the time.
Okay.
Dog.
Well, okay, we'll have this discussion with the good doctor around.
Can't wait.
In the news this week, well, I don't know if it's made the news yet, but certainly there's a new statutory instrument going around. We're getting a new note, $100 Zim. Apparently, it's going to be brown with a baobab tree, I think.
What is it
on-
gonna
on the back.
buy?
Well, I don't know. You tell us. What will it buy?
What's it gonna buy?
A
Istanbul.
lollipop. That's the same thing, right?
What's a stump?
A lollipop. You know, it's another version, I think.
George. It's just
apparently
a
we're out of touch.
right?
How come you're out of touch?
I mean,
What's
what do
been
we
happening?
need it for?
What do we
For
need?
change? Is it introduced? What was
Do
the
you
reason?
like carrying around wads of 20 Zim dollar notes?
No, I personally
you
I don't even carry them.
But do you use? When was the last time you used a bond note
That's what I'm
for anything?
No, I use them quite often.
For what?
Yeah.
So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about my trips into the rural areas,
Mhm.
which I do frequently. And you go out there with US dollars, you get, if you're getting change less than $1, you get it back in bond notes.
That happens here as well, hey?
Yeah.
And then
happens here.
if you're buying something for less than $1 or $1 and something, you use the bond notes.
To cover the gap.
But you see, for someone like me, it's confusing because I don't even know am I getting the right change or not. I can't keep up.
Well, you should text me.
But also, I mean, look, when I look at it, I just think that I find it really sad because, you know, we've got month-to-month inflation, you know, north of 6-7% a month, right? If you use 270, you know, that 100 bond note is worth less than 40 cents, and in 6 months it will be worth less than 5 cents. So, you know,
So wait,
it
what's
won't,
the point?
two of them can't buy a loaf of bread.
What's the point? No, two can't.
you know, so literally in a matter of months, the cost of printing this note is going to be higher than the
Than
face
the-
value of the note.
Yes.
So it's and I haven't even factored in the cost of the process of issuing a statutory instrument and going through you know, the procurement and shipping and distribution. All these other costs attendant to actually making a note widely available to the public. So why
So
are we
why have
doing
we
it?
printed
Why
it?
is a very good
You know, we
question.
have
Why?
Well,
really.
look, if I may presume to speak for the good doctor, convenience. I mean, the other day I drove past a toll gate just before 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Don't ask.
Okay, now I want to ask. But anyway.
But they were just about to do their shift change after a busy Friday night. And literally, the glasses on that little kiosk, you could only see the guy up to about here because he had piles and piles of
Bond
Zim dollar
notes.
notes. They're not called bond notes anymore.
What are
Oh,
they?
Zim dollar notes.
They're
Oh,
Zim dollar notes.
Oh,
It's a real
So
currency.
how much do
Oh.
you-
No, but George, I'm going to push back on that because I think you're defending the indefensible. If it's about convenience, why not just import US dollar coins and rand coins?
Because we're sovereign and we have our own currency.
Sovereign?
Yes. We have a constitution, we have a flag, we have a national anthem, we have a name.
you still need three
so
of
we're
those
sovereign.
to pay for your toll.
Okay.
So at the end of the
You
day,
still
you
need
still
three.
have
Yeah.
bags and
2.5.
bags of
Two and
notes
well,
in
you
your
can't get the
wallet.
half. Wow. So yeah, two and a
Well, it's
half.
better than needing 10.
Ah,
I
or
still don't
13,
see
I
the
think, from now onwards.
convenience.
surely
You
there must
tell
be
us
another
next
reason.
time, go through the same toll gate early Saturday morning. Please give us feedback after this note has come out.
No, I think the guy will be a little bit more visible. I think I'll see his pocket. His pocket, not just his chin.
I feel like they're focusing on the wrong things, really.
What do you think they should be focusing on?
Like what he said. Let's get more of the US dollar in. That's important because then we're not going anywhere. It's like we're chasing our tail with all these. Next thing we're going to have a $500, what is it? RTGS note.
Look, at least the dog
But
chasing
there
its
is a bit
tail
of a
gets...
movement.
So you're pushing for dollarization.
Yes.
We need our own currency.
Why?
No, the timing is off.
Look, we've
Not
done,
right now. We
George,
don't.
we've done 42 years of our own currency, and it's basically been...
No, not 42.
It's like an identity.
minus-
We need our own.
Minus about a decade.
No, minus 5 years or 6, 7 years, yeah. And those were actually better years in terms of price stability, in terms of businesses being able to plan their lives. And, so to the extent that we've actually been managing our own currency, certainly this side of the 21st century, we failed, right? So why, what's changed? Why do we wake up in the morning thinking that we can do things differently when we have such a well-documented, consistent record of failing?
But maybe it's like an identity.
Exactly.
I
It's
mean,
a nation.
you
What kind of
need-
country
you-
that is
you're
on-
a pharaoh,
How would you
right?
feel?
But the timing is wrong.
Do you
just
want
want
failure
to
to be
It's
part
not
of
the
your
time
identity?
to identify yourself.
But maybe sometimes.
When is the right time to identify yourself?
You will know when the time is right. You feel, right now, this is the wrong time. Our identity is fine in limbo where it is. We just need stability
I
for
remember
now.
growing up, we used to make fun of the Zambian currency.
Yeah.
We used to make the fun of the Mozambican currency.
Yes, yes.
And now the Zimbabwean currency is the butt of jokes all over the world.
Do you know how the quarter trades to the US dollar now?
No.
It's currently on 16. Of course, there's the slash of
Yes,
3
there's
zeros.
this. Yes.
But
But it's not a laughing
But
stock.
we-
It's a serious currency.
we-
You can travel. People leave Zambia with Zambian cards and they can swipe
Yes.
elsewhere in the
Yes.
world. You can't do that with a Zim dollar account. You haven't been able to do that since 2016.
Since
Women Memorial.
There is no exchange rate that people outside the country accept for Zim dollars. You can't pitch up with these notes and change them for anything because no one will take them. They're a joke. So why are we continuing with them?
Because we want identity. Basically.
we're sovereign. You guys don't understand what it is to be a nation.
So tell us, enlighten us, George.
You have a flag, you have a constitution, you have a national anthem,
And you have a currency.
What do we have? We have
But
the
look,
flag.
okay.
Yes,
Do-
we have a
do-
national anthem.
Do you know that?
Constitution.
That we don't use,
So the Tswanas have the pula, which is linked to the rand, and it works.
Yes, yes,
So they
that
have the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
right? Why can't we have a currency that is linked and run by a serious central bank?
Because we need it. We really need it, George.
What about serious central bank?
In terms of currency management, we don't. The evidence, the data says otherwise.
Okay, you guys are going to get me in trouble. A-level results, finally out
Yes. Finally out.
in April.
Like the year's almost over, but hey,
Well,
well done to those that passed.
What do we know who passed, really? Because the teachers that were marking the things went on strike and then they had called in riot police. I mean, what do we make of this?
Thinking about it, I mean, the first thing for me really was you've got your Cambridge students. A few of them have already left, gone to varsity, done all sorts, and there's the ZimSec student, still waiting for results, which have obviously now have come out. And the next question is, what are they going to do with them?
Go to varsity.
Go to varsity where?
Bear in mind, we're in April.
Well, when do varsities open?
South Africa.
So it depends. South Africa is done. So you're done for this year.
Oh, really?
Yes.
also they get a gap year. Yay.
And do what
What are
with
you
the
going
gap
to
year?
do
Drink bomb.
in our sovereign state?
Come on, now you see. Can you see where this is going?
Yeah.
Torino,
Can you see where this is going?
snake under grass.
No.
Okay, so you've got that. You also have the Progressive Teachers Union coming out and saying, well, the teachers don't really know what's cutting with the new curriculum.
How many years later?
I think
About
it's been
five.
That's quite sad.
And didn't I read something to the effect that I think certain people then raised their eyebrows during the COVID time, going into COVID maybe? Perhaps that's when they really decided to say, okay, let's look at the coursework. Because I think there's that whole 70-30...
Yeah, it's called CALA.
CALA. Oh,
Continuous Assess.
assessment,
continuous
learners,
something and learning
activities, something.
continuous something learning.
Continuous assessment, learning activities, something like that, where they had to now look at the whole consistency with your, I call it coursework.
Yes,
So
coursework's a bit of it.
yeah, coursework. So I think they then had to do it because of COVID and students having to write exams in 2021 or something. So where has it taken us then?
So are we saying that the teachers
So-
are teaching the children something that they don't know?
How? But how?
Okay,
We're saying 5 years. 2021 was last year.
You know, so education is really important. I learned something quite interesting just following what was happening in Europe. And one of the commentators mentioned, you know, he basically projected 30, 40 years out. And one of the things that struck me is that sub-Saharan Africa, you know, in 40, 50 years, is going to have a bigger population than India and China combined.
Really?
Given where our demographics are going. So we're going to be the most important market in the world,
For
Okay.
labor.
right? For
Labor
everything.
and
But
consumers, yeah.
so if, you know, if we are to have a vision at a national level for the next 30, 40 years, we really need to be getting this education thing right, because it would be incredibly sad if we were to wake up 30, 40 years from now and sub-Saharan Africa was really getting into its own on the global stage and thriving, and we carried on being a backwater because we didn't make the necessary investments.
I think the model is good, though.
In education.
I think the model is good. Maybe it's the implementation of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we all forget. I mean, we like to hate the new curriculum, but we forget where it came from. It came from a thing called the Gewurztramina Commission, which is in the late 80s, I think, or early 90s. A brilliant initiative by Bob. He got a bunch of clever people to go and look at our education system, compare it to the rest of the world, and they came back and they said our education system was likely to become obsolete or not fit for purpose quite quickly. They made recommendations on how to change it. The new curriculum attempts to adopt those recommendations. But the problem is we've introduced a curriculum in schools. But that's not really how it's supposed to happen, right? What's supposed to happen is a ministry should develop a curriculum, Ministry of Education. That curriculum, which is basically saying this is what our kids should be able to do at these points in their learning and development. That curriculum should go to universities.
Yes.
And universities should then develop courses for teachers. So then you get a bunch of clever professors, right? That say, oh, okay, so if you want to teach, if these kids are going to be able to do this, this is the best way.
But
to
this
achieve
actually
it.
To teach
ends,
them.
this only ends at the A level.
Yes.
It starts from ECD to A level.
so-
and it's
so
The
what you're speaking to-
Gewurztramina Commission actually had recommendations on higher education as well.
okay.
But okay, just stay with me for a while. Then the universities are supposed to then, because all the teachers' colleges are affiliated to universities,
Yes.
they're supposed to then develop curricula for the teachers' colleges, so that
Yes.
the teachers are now taught
Already
how to teach the kids to be ready
that
for
curriculum.
this.
Yes.
Then now you've got teachers coming out. These are the new teachers. We haven't talked about the old teachers. There has to be a parallel process of deciding what we're going to do about the old teachers so that
Yes.
they can
Stay in
deal with the
line.
new.
The incumbent teachers, not
Yes.
all of them are old, George.
I mean, old. Okay, yes. Okay, fine. The incumbent teachers.
Or maybe it was old.
And at the same time, parallel to those processes, the publishing houses should be writing books
Yes.
to match the curriculum. Now, none of that has happened in an orderly manner. So you've got a teacher who is teaching the way they are because that's how they learned,
Yes.
and that's all they know. And now you suddenly telling them there's a thing called color. They've never experienced color.
Yeah, so basically success, you know, there's that axiom. Success is 5%, ideas 95% execution or perspiration.
Yes.
And you know, it makes me think about land reform, right? If you
Are you going down a rabbit hole?
No, I'm not going down a rabbit hole. I'm just giving you an analogy that if you're of the school of thought that it was a brilliant idea, right?
Yes.
How you execute matters, right?
It does.
In terms of your outcomes. And so we can come up with these great commissions and have a fantastic vision. But if we fail to execute competently, then we actually worse than somebody who had an inferior vision, but executed on that
really
inferior
well.
vision better.
I.e. the system we had before this.
But where the rubber hits the road, our greatest source of foreign currency at the moment is the diaspora.
Yes.
We've been exporting skills. And if we can't get the education system to work, can we sustain our economy?
I like that you said at the moment, because what happens with a lot of these people who've left for the diaspora is that they will send money home to the extent that they have family here, right? And what happens is a lot of the younger people in that family will also exit, and eventually the grandparents and parents will exit the stage. And
Exit the stage. Ever so polite.
and there isn't there isn't a household here that needs money for electricity and groceries and that sort of thing. So they'll dry up those remittances. So
Yes.
I don't think that it's a plan at a national level to say, well, we're just going to export young people, because eventually they're going to settle in the diaspora, and not and those ties between them and us are not eternal.
But then when you also then look at some of these, some of the stuff that's happening, like the results coming out in April, you know, are you not then closing it in and saying it's because we're doing it for Zim? It's all staying within. Are you not, you know, trying to create a bigger picture here?
Look, and that's my point. I think Rufaro is right as well, that our long-term play shouldn't be diaspora remittances. But to both your points, let's look at the India case study. So India exported a heck of a lot of doctors and accountants, right through until maybe the mid-90s. But what did they do simultaneously?
Exactly.
They built a huge software industry and a huge manufacturing sector. So as what you're saying started to happen, their software industry was taken off.
Yeah.
And now the business process outsourcing as well, call center, that sort of thing. So now the youngsters are staying at home.
Yes.
And earning good money, doing work for rich people on the other side of the world.
We can't stay at home. The youngsters can't, because they'll be earning the new $100 note. It's not the money.
You're
Just
so
saying.
dark and depressing. We don't
Thank
have
you.
Well, she's drinking teas and she's emulating Tinashe, so she would be dark and depressing.
Isn't it ironic that they're both the least dark people? That's it. Anyway, we need to go and powder our noses. Ladies, it's been lovely having you by.
Thank you for
Thank you,
having
George.
us.
Thank you, Rufaro. It was
Love to
nice
have you
being
again.
here.
Yes, especially with the interesting bottle of
Did
tobacco.
you enjoy it?
It's actually good. It's actually
different.
growing on you.
There's a growing on
it's
you.
good, yeah.
And the tea?
That's the whole idea.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
See you in a couple
You
of
can
minutes.
have a show. You can have a segment in the future with Tinashe, and you can cool about tea.
You can do a kumbaya.
We'll be right back.
Zaganaka, Aywa, Zaganagana, Aywa, so we don't, so let us send Aywa, Jareruga, Bagumira Besu, Mira Bandore, to Mira Bagao, Mira Bandore, to Mira Bagao, Zaganaka, Aywa. Zaganagana, Aywa, Ndagakara Ndagutsa, Aujamira we, Abajina Jinogunetsa, Anabata Wariketsa, Bajina Jinogumutsa, Anabata Wariketsa, Zaganaka, Aywa, Zaganagana, Aywa, so we don't, so let us send Bagumira Besu, Mira Bandore, to Mira Bagao, Mira Bandore, to Mira Bagao, Zaganaka, Aywa, Zaganagana.
Welcome back. Yeah, we had to get rid of Muzi. She was just going to get us in trouble with the good doctor. We actually quite liked his bar. We'd like another invitation. And we have replaced her with a face you might remember, Musoni, Titch, a good friend of ours.
I see you wearing a scarf today. Do you have again?
Do you like the colors?
Do you have presidential ambitions?
No, I don't. As you'll have noticed, the color is grey and white.
So what's the
Does that mean
reason?
anything?
We're not in winter here, by the way.
I travelled to Marunda this afternoon, and the weather report
Great
told
city there.
Yeah, it is. And I went through a school to pick up somebody, and the weather report told me it would be chilly and rainy, and in a rush, without thinking too much, I just thought, let me get a scarf. And I'm glad I did, because it was quite...
Do scarves really do the trick?
Yes, they do, surprisingly.
Really?
Yeah. If they don't do the trick, it does the trick.
So you're not trying to make a fashion
Okay, so I
statement like
think it's a
Tinashe.
psychological thing.
yeah,
It's a
You actually
psychological
want to stay
thing.
warm. But we've got something interesting that might keep us warm. Maybe you can speak to it a little
Would
bit.
you like-
Thanks to a friend of the show, who arrived from London just this afternoon with this PT Bunai Haben.
Does a friend have a name?
Yes, yes. Her name is Linda, and she's one of our biggest investors on the show. And no doubt Bunai Haben is evidence of that. It's PT.
What is it today? And you guys, and unpronounceable names. Sorry, carry on.
Sure. Well, it's actually Scottish English, Bunai Haben. At some stage, I actually thought it was German or Dutch. It's from the Isle of Islay. It's Gaelic, and you've got that peaty aftertaste, which makes it quite.
Perhaps you can pour and talk at the same time.
Yes, I would. I would.
This might be a bit difficult for Danger Mouse. Oh, yeah.
So I'll let you know
Sorry,
on my simple knowledge on whiskey. I'm not really a whiskey drinker.
Sure.
I probably aspire to drink it one day.
Sure.
But
further,
the
sorry.
only thing I know about whiskey, because I did have to study it at one point,
Wow.
was, yes, the fact that you do get whiskey spelt with whiskey with an
With an
E,
E
and whiskey
without.
without an E.
Yes.
And what was the story about it? So that I know definitely.
Yes, the Americans are not good at spelling, so they spell their whiskies with an E.
So it was more, something to do if your country has an E in it. Then
Also
the,
the Irish,
whiskey is going to be EY. And if there's no E in the name of your country, you spell it without the E.
So Zimbabwe.
And
we
I
should have
actually
an
went
E.
into records to check it out, and it does check out. So Scotland has got no E.
I'll tell you something that you probably know, but you'd find interesting. Key difference between this stuff and that stuff.
Yes.
We put the cork back on this stuff.
And the
And
reason is
don't
the
have
Another one,
fragrance.
and another one. Can I mention that?
Yeah.
How old is this whiskey?
It doesn't have an age
Okay,
statement.
whatever,
It doesn't-
whatever.
This is
so-
a
so-
10-year...
Okay, so
Does it have an
whatever.
age statement? I don't think it's got an age statement.
No,
Some
it doesn't.
whiskies have an age statement
Okay.
to tell you.
So if a whiskey has an age on it, bottled 2022, right? And well, we've got it today, 10-year-old whiskey.
Yeah.
20 years from now,
It's still
the
10 years old.
10-year-old whiskey is still 10 years.
Absolutely.
With the wine, bottled. And today, we are having a 2016 vintage. 10 years from now, it's actually going to be a lot older. It's 10 plus, 16 years
But
older.
it's-
because it
it
keeps,
ages in the
exactly,
in the
it
bottle.
keeps maturing in
so,
the bottle.
So can I ask you a question though that I'm curious about? Is that true? Because in the modern era, a lot of bottles aren't corked. They have screw caps.
It still ages.
Okay,
So do they still age, or you actually need a cork for it to age?
I love that question. Do you know why? Australia, forced to reckon with in terms of wines.
Sure.
Their wines, 95% plus, are corked. Not corked, sorry. They're on screw cap.
Yes.
Okay.
But they have some of the most age-worthy
They
wines.
still
Ah.
age.
So
It still
it's got
ages.
But nothing
cork,
to do with the cork.
cork, screw cap, sustainability. Cork is a tree.
Yes.
So if you're thinking and looking sustainable, then you're going to go screw cap. So it's got nothing to do with quality. Go out and buy the screw caps.
I suspect if we should have a biochemist on the show, but I suspect the distillation process has something to do with it because you raise the temperatures very high during distillation, which you don't when you're making wine.
I will tell you something, a fun fact about wines, corked and uncorked. So, when you order a bottle of wine in a restaurant,
Yes.
they usually pour a little bit of it into your glass,
glass,
and
yeah.
ask you to taste and whether it's okay. And what that is about is if it's corked and the waiter and the cork, I either because of the way the waiter opened the bottle or because of the way it was manufactured, it was bottled. If the cork deteriorated and
Made contact with the wine.
Okay, so I'll stop you there. So it's all about how you actually store your wine. So it's not about the winemaker. They bottle them fresh. So how you keep your wine, how you store it. So you have heard that bottles, bottles with corks must be stored lying on their sides. You've probably wondered, because you walk into supermarkets and all the bottles are upright. So it's because buy those bottles, drink them. But if you're going to keep wine, store it on its side, because when you're talking about the cork, keeping it on the side keeps the cork moist. It does expand and it keeps it all properly corked, right? If you store your wine and you keep your bottle for 10 years and it's in an upright position, depending on where you're storing it, is the humidity right? Is the temperature in that place where you keep keeping it okay? So there's a possibility of that cork shrinking. When oxygen goes into your wine, then all hell breaks loose. Thank you. You can't even cook with it, George.
You go, I remember this. You go from a bunch of C's and O's with numbers. You did A-level chemistry, but it's got H's. But when oxygen goes in it, you lose the H's because they evaporate.
I think
and then
you captured the audience with you make vinegar. Let's
Thank you for this.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Good to have you.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, if the reason
So
why
are you guys going to do a wine?
well, it's just 2 more minutes. Relax.
2 whole minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're being served,
Can we taste?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, can you see how that's gone all cloudy? Because you put ice in it, and mine is still clear. That's because this is non-chill filtered. So the proteins in the whiskey are coagulating, and they're forming that lovely cloud that you see.
Awesome.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make is...
Okay, can we taste it? You can talk while we taste it.
Yeah, sure.
Are you going to join us for a taste?
Yes, I will taste. I've actually done a few whiskey tastings, by the way, so it's not going to be entirely
Will you
new.
take us through?
So, no, I
Okay,
won't be able to take you through because it was Irish whiskey I had. This is Scottish.
this
So
is
Msoni is
interesting.
going to take us through that.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me back to the show. It's nice to see you guys again, talking about important things and solving the world's problems, etc.
like whiskey and
2-hour benefactor.
Blender.
Benefactor.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's beautiful on the nose. I'm not going to let you go down that rabbit hole. I'm actually going to sniff this for a while. Musoni's been doing quite a lot of work in agriculture. Yes? What do you think?
This is actually really good.
We only drink good whiskey on this show.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I should come more often.
Yeah.
You've been doing some work on agriculture and, more importantly, sustainable agriculture. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the harvest. And so, we've been speculating on the show about the harvest for months now. But we now have numbers from the minister's own mouth, the horse's mouth, so to speak, which indicate that GMB has received less than half what the government had planned for. I mean, from your work with social welfare and the vulnerable, what does this really mean for the country?
I think the first thing is our numbers are yet to be confirmed, but for sure we're coming in at less than half what we expected in terms of output. In some areas which were hard hit, it's potentially 0%.
So hard hit because it didn't rain or because it rained too much?
It either rained too much or
let's
it
be clear
rained late.
which season we're talking about. We're not talking about the season
This
that
season.
we're at the end of. We're talking about the last season.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
so we're at 50% in the last season, which was far better than this current season. This current season, we got enough rain at an aggregate level, but the quality of the rainfall pattern was horrible. We either got too much rain at some stage or too little rain at some stage. So we're coming in at much less than half, which was last year's result. And last year's result was one of the best in a long time.
Oh.
Yes. So I think we need to start thinking about our food security at the household level, but also at a national level. So while we may spend time worrying about the rates and inflation and so forth,
Which we should.
And whether the whiskey is chill filtered.
Yes, chill filtered or not, and if it's from the Isle of Islay or not. I think we're potentially in a year when we will not have enough food in the granary, and we will not have the same supply from our usual supplementers like Ukraine.
Well, we might not actually import any grain from Ukraine, but Ukraine feeds into a global market, which we participate in.
Correct.
And unfortunately, because we're a small, poor country, when the bidding wars start, because Egypt is the biggest consumer of
Yes.
Ukrainian
Yes.
It is.
wheat, and depending on how things turn out in that part of the world, they might not plant this year, and they might not be a
Well,
meaningful
right now
harvest.
they can't get out. What they harvested last year, which was an okay season, for
Yeah.
them, they can't get it out because the Russians have the ports.
So if the Egyptians can't bring in Ukrainian wheat, they're going to go into the global market,
Yeah.
and they're going to pay up
Yeah,
because
they
they've got capacity. I think they must be the second or third largest economy on the continent, and they certainly don't have foreign currency challenges. So they will be able to actually bid up for
Absolutely.
grain, and it's going to affect us because the price is going to be higher, and they're going to get allocation that in a way that we can't.
So with that in mind, and just going back to what you said, that you've received less than half. GMB has received less than half. Can it have anything to do with price?
A good indicator would be how many households delivered to GMB.
Yes.
And when we looked at the stats, we then discovered that some people do not take their grain to GMB, which is a good thing because it still solves our problem on food security.
Okay.
But all our regular suppliers, your large-scale commercial farmers, etc., they didn't bring as much grain as they could, notwithstanding that the price that the government had offered was quite
So
robust.
do you think they're holding on to it?
This is
It's
what
not
I'm
there.
trying to
Because
find
my
out.
hypothesis on
It's
this
not
show has
there.
consistently been that they can't
Could that be
holding on to it.
that?
They can't, because why would they need grain? I think what they need is cash flow, liquidity. So they would have to release some of that at some stage to get money onto their farms.
But before they get to liquidity, they need storage.
They need storage.
Have you ever seen 1,000 tons of maize?
Yes, I have.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're going to store on your farm willy-nilly.
Mm.
And 1,000 tons is only 100 hectares if you're doing a good job.
Okay.
If you're doing 200 or 300 hectares and
Yeah.
doing a good job on it, you've got 2,000 or 3,000 tons. Now, the context of 1,000 tons is 33 magonyet.
Goodness.
2,000 tons
Okay.
is
That's
66
putting it into
magonyet,
perspective. Yeah.
full of maize.
Yeah.
It's not something that a farmer wants to keep on his farm.
No.
And that's all their wealth most of the time. So,
Yeah.
so we're talking about a food problem this year, and it will get worse next year because I don't see any Ukrainian farmers or Russian farmers spending time this year on
No.
wheat. So our problem
They're occupied with other
is, so
things.
we're going into the first step of the problem. Next year we'll go into the real problem because even if the Egyptians have money, the product just won't be there.
But I think it's beyond the Egyptians, right? Because you're looking at Ukraine alone doing around 15% of grain production in the world.
30.
30.
30.
Well, that's
Combined with Russia.
Combined with Russia,
Russia,
right?
okay.
You get to 1 in 3 bowls of cereal, 1 in 3 plates of porridge in the world are coming from these two countries that are at war. So, I mean, when you think about it as just being Egypt, the problem seems a lot smaller than it is. But really, it's going to affect the whole world.
It is.
Yep.
Edwell.
And everybody's scrambling
Yeah.
to get their hands on this grain.
And it will affect Africa disproportionately.
Yes.
Okay, so if you think about it in the context, I'll give you what I hope will be a useful analogy. So if you think about the supply chain issues that arose out of COVID, right? There was a lot of demand because people were working from home
Yes.
and they were spending less on services like travel
Yeah.
and spending much more on computers and physical goods that they used while at home, right?
Yes.
So the demand for the shipping for these things
Yeah.
went through the roof.
Yes.
So what would happen, or what actually happened, is a major company like Apple, right? If you look at their income statement, the cost of shipping for them is tiny as a percentage of what they're doing. So they would go to Maersk and the big shipping companies and say, you know what, we don't want to hear about this shipping problem.
How much does it cost?
We will pay you double, triple, whatever.
Whatever.
We don't
Yeah.
care.
Just ship it.
Our shipping must not be affected.
Yeah.
Right? So the big,
So the
The
iPhones
big
will get you.
guys. Mm.
the major corporates would just buy up the capacity, most of it, right?
Yeah.
But if you were here in Harare and you wanted to import one container from China or from, South America or wherever, right, you would find that your invoice, right, could go up 3,000%, 5,000%.
Yes, but it
because,
won't arrive.
Because everybody else has taken up the big players have taken up 90% of the capacity.
Yeah.
And the rest of you smaller players are now having this horrific bidding war for what's left. And your price, so where Apple can go to Musk and say, we'll pay you double, and Musk will say, okay, fine, you guys are a big, important customer, we'll commit capacity for you because we don't want to upset you, right? If it's Rufaro importing one container, they'll say, oh,
We got the message.
5,000%, 3,000%. And the same will happen with grain.
With the grain, yeah.
The big consumers, their governments are going to say, you know what, I'm going to be voted out of office if I don't secure grain.
Yeah.
So they'll do a deal, and they consume 10, 100 times more than what Zimbabwe consumes.
Where does
They'll
that
pay.
leave us?
So we will be
Like, there will be the Rufaro in this.
With the one container.
Yeah.
Yes. We're the little guy that nobody cares about, that will be competing for whatever's left over, and the pricing in that space is going to be horrific. So Africa is actually going to pay a higher price and suffer significantly more than everybody else because of this grain issue.
We've been there before.
Well, but I think it was a national problem, not a global problem.
Yes, it was a national problem, true.
And we're looking at a global problem, and we need some local solutions.
So exactly. So what do we
So
do?
what-
What does Joe Soap, who's watching the show, do?
How much excess land do you have at your house, George?
Don't ask me.
A couple of hectares?
I might get mobbed.
I recommend you consider farming on your land.
Okay.
We need to think about urban farming. We need to think about going on to, our traditional grains, sorghum, millet, products that are drought resistant. So we need to think about it now, because come next year, you guys could probably all buy as much grain as you need for your family. But if
You need to survive.
They won't be
yeah.
affected.
Yes.
So okay, as we're going into winter, if you live in a reasonably cool part of the country,
consider winter cropping.
find some wheat somewhere and wire some in your
Well,
garden.
I'll give you some bad news about wheat. Okay, so wheat is a winter crop. That's not a secret. And the reason why we grow so much wheat in this part of, we grew so much wheat before land reform was because of import substitution to deal with the sanctions, after UDI.
Okay, yeah.
The South Africans actually don't grow any meaningful amount of wheat. This part of the world is simply not amenable to serious production of wheat.
But what teachers say is you're better off doing
Just
a
using
bad
up.
crop and making your own chimodo at home, because there's a chance that you're not going to like the price of bread.
Teach your children Bambaira. Get them to enjoy it. If they don't, well, tough luck.
Look, I think you make a fair point, but I'm much more enamored with the other solution to say, look, you know what, at the end of the day, even if it was the only available solution to us, right, it's not an immediate solution, right? We're not going to make it in the next 6 months by significantly increasing.
Well, it takes 90 days.
I don't think it will solve our problem, especially for the urban population. I don't think that's a reasonable solution. What I do think the opportunity is
It's a step.
Yeah, it's a step. So we should.
You'll be in a less bad
Yeah.
situation.
Yes.
And
So
you're
we
a
should go for it.
banter.
Yeah.
So should I?
Well, look, banting is going in fashion.
So what?
Yeah, but I mean, you say banting is a fashion.
Yeah.
We're also eating a lot of protein from South America. And guess what the protein, those chickens and those turkeys are
They
from?
need to eat.
Yeah, well, there we have
grain.
it.
Yeah.
It still comes back.
Everything,
It still comes back.
everything comes from grain.
Yeah, everything comes from grain.
So there was something else that was in the news that actually relates to what we're discussing, which is the fact that the mining houses, the Chamber of Mines, came out and said they need about $10 billion.
$10 billion worth, $10 billion short of capital.
Right, to take us to the next level, where we can participate in these extraordinary commodity prices. And I think that in as much as we should pursue everything that you're speaking to in terms of growing alternatives, we should actually also pursue having more money in the kitty. And when I say money, I'm not talking about Zim dollars. I'm talking about real money, right? By exporting more, right? And what the Chamber of Mines is talking about, $10 billion, it sounds like a ridiculously huge amount of money given where we are right now. And I'm glad Tinashe is not here. Because you'd shoot it down and say, there's no way we can raise $10 billion. But I believe commodity prices are so high and the world has changed so much. That's, and I love that the Chamber of Mines has articulated this number. I think it's doable. And I think that we have an opportunity.
Last week you were on 5, now you're on 10.
No, well, look,
Please, people out there, stop throwing numbers into the press. Just know how far is on 50.
Look, and this is not my number, right? This is the Chamber of Mines, and it's an organization of private mining houses that have put this together. So it's not some government
Mostly private.
wish list.
What's the
where they're just
driver
pulling
of
up.
commodity prices right now?
It's the crisis in Europe.
So
and global inflation. That was there before Russia invaded Ukraine.
But it's been turbocharged by the crisis.
Now, how long do you think the crisis is on for? Is it 5 years like the last World War? Is it a year? Are the peace talks going to stop the crisis soon or not?
I think that's unknown, to be absolutely honest.
But those are the two parameters I think we need to think about before we throw out a figure like 10 billion. Because we need to understand if this is a long-term solution to a long-term problem, or are we giving a long-term solution to a short-term problem?
No, but I think you're looking at it wrong, right?
Come off.
I think
We're trying to assist him.
Paint himself into a corner.
I think you're looking at it wrong.
What's the right way?
So whether it turns out to be a short-term or long-term problem, the reality today is that there are investors who would not touch Zimbabwe with a barge pole on the 23rd of February before this crisis began.
Yes.
Who would get onto a plane and have a conversation with a mining CEO and our central bank governor and our minister of finance if there were indications that we were open for a deal.
Now, for me, that would only make sense if wheat is a 90-day crop.
I'm not talking about wheat.
Yes,
I'm
I know.
talking about minerals.
So I'm trying to work you through a 10 billion investment into a mining house. Let's say it's one. Let's not.
No, it's all of them. So it's an aggregate number from the Chamber of Mines.
They need to import.
Let's use the figure,
They need
10
to
billion.
import. They need to send money. They need to do all sorts of things. We're only starting to see value from that type of investment in an 18 to 24-month period at the earliest.
True.
So in that 24-month period,
What do we do?
we need a combination of solutions. This is potentially a long-term solution, provided we
But the
go
money
through.
can arrive tomorrow.
No, it can't.
This is the trade and Faro
Not in
speaking.
the real world. You're a
Give me a
stockbroker,
account,
right?
send money.
But
But this is
you think everything happens as quickly as it does on the stock exchange. Your problem is you think that everything works like the stock market. Yes, in the stock market the money comes quickly, but when you're doing big deals, it doesn't come that quickly.
Yeah, but look, I think to be fair to you, you're correct. It takes time to do big deals, but in a crisis, deals happen faster. Yeah.
You're still talking 90 days minimum, dude.
I agree with you, Rufaro. I want to hear your point more.
Yeah. So I
So you
think.
agree with what you don't?
No. In him saying during a crisis, things can speed up.
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
agree with that. So I just need to hear the point to apply the crisis.
In the first instance, when you think about global capital markets, right, and I want to put it into proper context, the global economy is an $80-90 trillion gig, okay? And global capital markets are similar size. So 10
How many
billion.
zeros are in a trillion?
You remember you're Zimbabwean. Or you should remember. Right? So $10 billion in the context of that it's a drop in the ocean.
It is.
Right? And a lot of these mines, notwithstanding that they have been struggling for years, they have proven resources. They've been trying to raise money for the longest time, and they've done road shows to a lot of these investors. They've got information memorandums that people have looked at and understand. And The reason they said no was because they didn't like certain macroeconomic things, right? So if those issues are sorted out, and it just takes, because if you think about our government today, there is no division. It's basically the same party that controls the executive branch, controls the legislation, right? So they can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, the world has changed. We're going to create a special package for people who want to look at doing investments in Zim. And so that process, it's not, in as much as it takes 90 days, 180 days normally, right? But because Zim has been out there and investors understand the investment opportunities a lot, and they understand what the problem is. It's an exchange control currency problem. If we were to come out very quickly and say, you know what, we want to take advantage of this opportunity and we're sorting this out. In fact, we don't even actually need to say we're sorting it out. All we need to do is to put our hand up and say, you know what, we're amenable to making a bunch of changes that we were not thinking about making on the 23rd of February. We're amenable to making them. Why don't you come to Harare, tell us what the major issues are, and we can sort this out. So, and it might not happen as quickly as I would like, but I suspect deals can be done inside 90 days. And even if 90 days is the absolute minimum, right? Nothing can be done faster than 90 days. That is still so much better than what we were looking at before the 23rd of February. Because before the 23rd of February, we were not thinking about significant deals which could bring in significant foreign investment before the next election.
So I think it goes back to George that it's happening, like you're saying, in the 90 days.
You said you agree
But George,
with him.
no, I do. But listen to this. Listen to this.
Yeah.
I agree with him.
It's a bit
But
strange
this is
when we have a lady.
Seems like a
no. I
George.
agree with no. I agreed with him
Yeah.
in terms of how it can be speeded up.
Yes.
But just going back to, you've said even if it's 90 days, and to you that sounds like speed, and which is speed. But that's 90 days to grow maize, like you were saying. So in other words, you can actually have the best of both worlds.
Yes, we should really
As you're working on that, we can actually go for the immediate solutions.
And I think we're talking about different levels. So you're talking at a governmental level and what the government could do. Tij and I are talking about what ordinary households should do.
Yes.
And we're saying Rima Mbambai,
Yes.
because it's going to be a
To
bumpy
get tough,
ride.
yeah.
Rima Mbambai, Rima Sogam, build up your savings,
Even that's
reduce your expenses,
Well, that is happening.
because it's going to be a bumpy ride. You're going to have inflation, you're going to have a shortage of food. This is what we're likely to see over the next 6 to 9 months. Because even if a deal gets closed in 90 days, as you say, Rufaro, and the money comes, now you've got to send the money to China so that you get the machines, and then you're going to wait for the machines to arrive, then the machines have to dig, and then when they're dug, then the stuff can
but
get
the average
compressed.
Zimbabwean is an employee, and if we raise this money and the mining sector and these other sectors start ramping up for higher production, even if it's going to take several weeks or months, they're going to start hiring and they're going to start paying people and they're going to start making arrangements to provide for them.
But at a household level, are you going to bet on this?
No, at a household level, I mean, in fact, at any level, right? At any strategic level, household, company, national, you should always pray for the best, but plan for the worst.
And all we're saying, and we agree with you, the government must take advantage of this window. It is a magical window that probably won't come around for another couple of generations. I'm afraid that our children, hopeful, that our children won't have to deal with this set of circumstances any more than our parents didn't have to deal with what the baby boomers had to deal with in the 1940s. But households must live day by day.
Absolutely.
You don't stop living. That's where the problem is.
So,
well, people sometimes
No.
starve and die.
and what we're saying,
Rufaro, you're just on the other side of the spectrum.
so we're saying at household level, build capacity to look after yourself. Have cash savings. Minimize your outgo. Minimize your reliance on the global economy. whatever you can produce for yourself, by all means do. Whatever you don't need to spend today, don't. And try and keep some of that in cash.
And I would take George very seriously on this, because I think, you know, the last major global crisis.
You would or you will?
I would, and and I will.
The will was a
Yeah,
bit low
to squeeze
toned.
it out of him.
Yeah.
You know, for most Zimbabweans, the global financial crisis of 2007, 2008, it was academic, right? It didn't really affect life in this part of the world. You know, we read about it in the papers that people were being fired from Lehman Brothers in London and New York, and yeah, okay. This food crisis is real, and it's going to hit us hard.
Yeah.
And we should really be taking it very seriously.
I can't agree with you more. Strangely enough.
We're going to go for a very quick break. We'll see you in a minute or two, and maybe we'll take a few last words from Musoni and round up the show.
Daidama kore mazana mana Sawira huya timborangana Timboronga tichine mkana Handirambe isheni novuma Kana mati yangu nguva ya gwana Sawira huya timborangana Timboronga tichine mkana Daita isi vara mangwana Taingo funza ndewani mkana Dainda isi vara mangwana Taingo funza nderani jana Sawira huya timborangana Timboronga tichine mkana Sawira huya timborangana Timboronga tichine mkana Daita isi vara mangwana Taingo funza ndewani mkana Dainda isi vara mangwana Taingo funza nderani jana Sawira huya timborangana Timboronga tichine mkana.
And we're back. Scuff more.
But the colors are wrong. George, the colors are wrong.
Yeah, we'll call you Scuff more.
Okay.
I prefer Danger Mouse.
Thank you. Faro, everybody does.
But yeah, we'll let you have the honor of closing word.
Wow, thank you, George. You know, to imagine George.
But that doesn't mean we're not going to respond.
Oh, jeez. So it's not a closing word. It's an opening word.
So what are your thoughts on monetary policy?
So we have a monetary policy committee that met last week and issued a statement on April Fool's Day. I don't think the two are connected, but I do think it's worth considering. And then subsequently, yesterday on Tuesday, we received an SI instrument issuing a new $100 note. So I'm taking the view that April Fool's Day, Monetary Policy Committee statement, and the issuance of the $100 are connected. In my view, our Monetary Policy Committee has just told us that inflation is here. They're not able to control it. If there's anything you can do, just brace, because what they've done is they've issued a $100 bill, which, depending on what rate you use, is going to be worth less and less. Do you remember the date it is to be issued?
I read the thing. It doesn't seem to announce a date.
Well, whatever date it's issued, it'll be worth less than the ink that's on it. But I think what the Monetary Policy Committee has done is they've just told us that for us to continue transacting, we're going to need this 100 ZWL note. And just in closing, George, I got goosebumps because I remembered the last time, and this was just before my dad retired. He received his salary in cash, in what were called, I think they were called bearer checks or whatever it was. I forgot, or agro bills. And as
check.
Bearer.
well, one of the two. What I remember is by the time he got to one of the stores to buy groceries, he couldn't use them. And I'm not saying it's the same, but it's eerie.
If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck.
It probably is.
Getting a deja vu moment there.
Yes. I don't know what your thoughts are, but that's what I thought about immediately. Notwithstanding that it was April Fool's Day that kicked it off. But yeah.
Look, I'm slowly switching over to the governor's side.
Okay.
I think he's desperately trying to stem the tide. I think the whole of the central bank is desperately trying to stem the tide. But the fiscal side of the economy is pushing the tide.
Do you like boating, George?
No.
I love it. I'll tell you something. Once the tide comes, don't stem it.
Yeah.
It's actually very
Or else
dangerous.
it's going to take you out with it.
Yes.
Of course.
It's very dangerous.
I'm curious. What in monetary policy gives you the impression that the central bank is trying to stem a tide?
Look, of late, whenever there's a big movement on the markets, they've actually come out with a statement. But also very tellingly, if you read the governor's last monetary policy statement, between the lines, he casts serious aspersions and pointed serious fingers. I get the sense he's the word that the term that comes to mind, a prisoner of conscience. He's riding a tiger he can't get off.
Wow.
Do you want to unpack that
Interesting.
some more?
So,
No, I don't. I don't.
So we're people in
But
leadership.
interesting way of putting it, Tim.
People in leadership unable to dislodge themselves. That's very discomforting, if you ask me. But maybe it's a strategy. Maybe they have a plan.
I think
There's a lot of maybes here.
no. I think Titch, as we're now at an age where, when we talk with our kids, and our kids ask questions, we now appreciate that sometimes when, as children, we ask questions and our fathers put on brave faces.
Yeah.
They didn't have a plan,
No, they didn't.
or they were not very confident of their plan.
They didn't know. Yeah.
It's a very dark moment to end the show.
Goodness, I was about to say, phew.
But since we have a
no,
lady on the show, please
See,
give us something.
so as the resident optimist, what I'm going to say is,
Rufaro is the resident optimist.
yes, I am the resident.
Well,
Well, obviously everyone here believes
I've
you,
just been
Rufaro.
privy of that information like now.
I think the fiscus and the monetary authorities have an excellent opportunity and excuse to pivot and do things differently because the world has changed. And I was saying the same thing when COVID happened, and I was delighted when the authorities changed their mind and they said, what, because we're in the middle of a crisis, it's okay for people to transact in US dollars. We want to make life easier for everybody. We were banning the use of US dollars for day-to-day transactions, but because we're in an extraordinary time, we have this coronavirus, let's let people transact in US dollars. The same thing is happening. We've got a crisis in Europe that is driving up commodity prices across the board. We have.
Are you making the same point you made last segment?
So no, I'm not. I'm making a different point. I'm saying that we are not doomed, right? The monetary authorities are not doomed to ride this tiger, the way you put it, and the fiscus is not doomed to pursue the path it's been on pre-February 23, right? We have an opportunity to change, and it's a once in a lifetime get out of jail card.
That's not the same point you made.
Sounds very similar, I must say.
I have a lot of
So I would-
conspiracy theories going through my head as you say that.
Oh, yeah.
Rufaro.
Okay.
No, let him finish.
No, that's the point. We have a get out of jail free card. We can say, you know what? Instead of admitting that we were pursuing policies that were doomed to fail, we can pivot and say, no, it's not because we're doing the wrong thing. We're pivoting because the world has changed.
environment.
And we
was
can all
different.
pretend to believe them and,
So you agree?
and cheer them on and say, yes, you're making positive
So
changes.
Pretend to believe them.
So you're agreeing that we're riding a tiger. There's just that there's a
Now,
moment
I
for
would
us.
never characterize it as riding a tiger.
What
I
would you
maybe a
characterize
lion.
it as?
I would be much more harsh in my
Maybe a lion.
in my judgment. I
Okay,
wouldn't say
what
we're
would you-
riding it. I think we're pursuing policies that are doomed to fail. There's no, I mean,
It's not.
because the authorities actually have all the power in the world to choose which path to take, and they've chosen this path of a local currency that is failing. There aren't any good reasons for it.
George, do you think you could write a letter from Friday Drinks to the governor and ask Rufaro to join their board? Do you think we'd be better off after
I love that. I love
Do you
that.
think it
George?
Be better off?
Why am I the one chosen to write the letter?
George,
You're the diplomat.
you know that. You know that.
This is a wonderful place for us to end the show. It's been lovely having you. I think we've had lots of fun today. I think lots of ideas have come up. And as usual, that's all
And
we seek to do.
Tinashe should travel more.
Yes.
Oh, well.
All we seek to do is to inspire conversations with people around you. And we hope we give you ideas to debate with people around you. We hope that if you have access to people that make policies or have influence on policies, that you raise some of these ideas with them. And hopefully all of us together can make a better Zimbabwe. Nobody has a monopoly on ideas. Nobody has a monopoly on being right. But I think all of us together can make our ideas better. Lovely having you along. Be safe. COVID is real. Be good. If you can't be good, be good at it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.